if we want to survive in the competitive landscape, there has to be something which is similar to our work, but towards the technological side of it. So rather than being offered, I was instructed that, boss, you have to be the one working. And I come across 80-90 different websites which are hosting government schemes. Slowly and steadily I built around that, okay, these government schemes, since they are largely into the MSME space, and MSMEs all have one thing in common, that is their Udyam registration. We can build something that takes out the data from Udyam registration and filters out the schemes basis the 12 different items of information that are available on any Udyam registration. What is Saarthi? As the name indicates, it has taken its inspiration from Krishna, who is a guide, okay, and our founder's favorite god. So it's a guide. It's a normal business's guide towards the funds that are earmarked for the sake of that business by the government of India. What are government schemes? Government schemes, if you'd see the Hindi word for it, Yojana. Modi ji keeps on saying development model. The government scheme is in a way the very essence of this development model. For me as an individual business, or for you as an individual business, there would be one credit guarantee scheme. But if you look at it from an objective third-party point of view, there are many credit guarantee schemes. They go to exhibitions, trade fairs of that particular market to start showing their presence, that yes, our presence is there somewhere in this area. So International Cooperation Scheme hosts a benefit where a business gets a reimbursement of the charges that it would need to pay for attending any fair which is overseas. All they need is an Udyam certification.
Subscribe to our channel to enjoy more such business podcasts and stories. Hit that like button and leave a comment to show some love. Welcome to Bug Studio. I'm your host Hetal Raval. Today's podcast is going to be factual and educational at the same time. Grab a journal and pen to jot down. We will discuss on MSME's development and government scheme. Our expert guest today is Mr. Tanishq Hingad. Hailing from a family business background, Tanishq says his career started in the 4th standard when he joined the family business as a helping hand, dusting off the store and serving water to customers. What a start! He then came to Mumbai for further studies and met EMSME founder CA Ankush Jain, under whom he worked as a CA intern. He was directly placed in the founder's office at the start of the Ajwa EMSME, a company specializing in the MSME space. He has played a major part in the development of the government scheme database of emsme saarthi, which involved the compilation of scheme information from over 120 different websites run by different government agencies. A truly source guru for MSME schemes, Tanishq has a deep understanding of the operational aspects of scheme availments and the various agencies responsible for the disbursement of government schemes benefits. He is passionate MSME products expert who has used his intense knowledge of government schemes to develop blueprints for eMSME products that would serve MSMEs. He dons 3 hats: Head of Saarthi, Institutional Connects, and Founder's Office. Let's welcome Mr. Tanishq Hingad. Welcome to Bug Studio, Tanishq. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm doing great.
That's wonderful. So how did your journey with eMSME start?
Funny story actually. So it was around the December of 2020. I was doing my CA internship with our founder, C. Ankush Jain. It was supposed to get over in the month of February 2021. I still remember it as clear as day. It was 6th of December 2020. I enter the office. There are a few people sitting having discussion that, oh, it's COVID time. Now we need to do something around the technology, because if we want to survive in the competitive landscape, there has to be something which is similar to our work, but towards the technological side of it.
Right.
So rather than being offered, I was instructed that, boss, you have to be the one working in one of the areas that EMSME is going to work about. So that is how it came about, and finally on 20th of December we incorporated as EMSME.
That's interesting. So, being an important part of the product development, how did the product ideation start with EMSME?
Initially, when we started that we had to do something, there were 4 5 of us. Each one of us was given an idea that think around this, think around this, think around this. And I still remember I was given MSME schemes as a topic, government schemes.
Okay.
So day one, I start my research and I come across 80, 89, 80, 90 different websites which are hosting government schemes.
My God, 80 to 90 websites.
80 to 90 websites which are hosting government schemes. And on day one itself, my list, I was preparing a truncated list of government schemes. My list had already crossed 700 schemes
Okay.
on day one. Now I was instructed that I have to think about a product around this. And the basis of developing a product or the topic around which I was to develop a product was already so large that I was at loss of ideas, at loss of any cerebral capacity at that moment. Okay, what should I do now?
Really?
So the first day I was so lost. Okay, how? This is so much. Is this a single person job? How can I think about it? But then slowly and steadily I built around that, okay, these government schemes, since they are largely into the MSME space, and MSMEs all have one thing in common, that is their Udyam registration. We can build something that takes out the data from Udyam registration and filters out the schemes basis the 12 different items of information that are available on any Udyam registration. Again, the first idea was a pen paper idea. I drafted something on a paper, then I put it down in an Excel, and then I went to the founder with that. Then it got approved. So again, a very trial and error journey, you can say.
Right. And very virgin to its extent. But the plethora of information is so much that you have to lay down everything
Yes.
in the place. Okay. So now that you have told us about EMSME, can you give us a brief overview on the Saarthi as your product and how it has started to support and navigate all government schemes there?
So what is Saarthi? As the name indicates, it has taken its inspiration from Krishna, who is a guide. Okay. And our founder's favorite god. Okay. So it's a guide. It's a normal business's guide towards the funds that are earmarked for the sake of that business by the government of India. What it does is, it is basically a database. It is a database of all the government schemes run by various levels of government, be it center government, be it state government, any department, any ministry. All these government schemes, we have summarized them and put them into a database format by segmenting the information. That is, what is the information regarding a benefit, what is the information regarding the eligibility criteria, and what is the information on which the filtering algorithm would work. That database takes, or the Saarthi platform, if I was to put in layman terms, Saarthi platform runs a check for one particular business who has input its detail on Saarthi platform. It runs a check on my database. What all things are available for this particular person who's running in this check. And then it gives out and displays a list of, boss, this is the benefit that is available for you. Then what happens is, the customer then and there can actually express interest in any particular scheme, that this is a government scheme that I wish to get benefit from.
Okay.
After that, the journey moves a little offline. There's a team of experts that reaches out to that customer and handholds it in the entire preparation of documents and compliance space, and gets the benefit of that particular scheme disbursed to the customer.
So all that a person needs to do is come onto your platform, search for schemes, feed in their details, and instantly it gives a pop-up of all the schemes. Wherever the interest is generated, the person puts the tab button and instantly the respective team will get in touch with you, and then they'll take it up from there on the entire offline basis, which is 1:1, right? 1-to-1 basis.
1-to-1 basis, yes.
Okay, that's interesting. Now, we are already talking about government schemes. So let's go and do the ABC of government schemes. So what are government schemes and how are they made and who makes them?
What are government schemes? Government schemes, if you'd see the Hindi word for it, Yojana. And Modi ji keeps on saying development model. The government scheme is in a way the very essence of this development model. What happens is, all of us hear that this year the government has earmarked this many crores of budget for MSMEs, this many crores of budget for railway.
Right.
How's that budget disbursed to the said segment? How?
That's a question everybody is interested to know. Yeah.
So there are these policymakers, the bureaucrats at the central government level, who are essentially the think tank of our government.
Right.
They formulate, basis the data that they have collected again from the streets of our nation, they formulate a policy document that this segment needs to have this much more investment so that it can sustain and grow and flourish.
So you mean to say that they forecast that this could be the requirement, then they dedicate and allocate a budget to it, and from there onwards that Yojana will have that much deputed fund released or probably kept reserved for that.
Kept reserved for it. Everything having its own separate packaging and mechanism set, how it will be released to the individual business, individual user who's going to be taking the benefit of government scheme.
Okay.
So that is how the government scheme is made. As to who makes it, obviously the central level bureaucrats, the ministries, they have armies of IAS officers, other public servants who are essentially the think tank and formulate this. And for their implementation, they have ground level offices in every district. These are presided by ground level officers who actually approve individual files, check, verify. If they want to do a physical verification field visit, they do that. And this is how the government schemes are formulated and then pushed out to the public and actually implemented.
Wonderful. So as an MSME ourselves, and also for the benefit of the audience, we've gone ahead and done our research.
Okay.
And we have used the public domain extensively. And through that, we have come across a couple of schemes. Okay. And many of them are very popular government loan schemes. Let's break down each one of them.
Sure.
Most popular that we've come across is the credit guarantee scheme.
Okay. Now, this is a very interesting topic that you mentioned. So there is not just one credit guarantee scheme. For me as an individual business, or for you as an individual business, there would be one credit guarantee scheme.
Okay.
But if you look at it from an objective third party point of view, there are many credit guarantee schemes, because the difference is how is it structured and what is the target audience.
So you mean to say for every individual, for every manufacturing company to a service company, there are separate different sets of credit guarantee schemes?
There is a separate credit guarantee scheme for, let's say, manufacturing service entities.
Okay.
There is a separate credit guarantee scheme for startups. There is a separate credit guarantee scheme for people who are taking loan from NBFCs.
Okay.
There is a separate credit guarantee scheme for units that are under stress or who have defaulted their loan payments.
Okay.
So all these credit guarantee schemes, they are in a way structured that a financer would finance you, and then that financing would be guaranteed to that financer by the government. So this is a category of schemes that host these separate schemes.
So what is a typical CG? What is the eligibility for it? And how does one go about?
The most popular credit guarantee scheme that is run is the CGTMSE scheme.
Okay.
CGTMSE scheme is around a business loan with an upper cap of rupees 5 crores. Under it, any businessman is eligible, or any MSME business. It may be a manufacturing, it may be a service sector. And in the past years, even traders are allowed to take out a CGTMSE loan. So it is structured in a way that 5 crore business loan capping. Out of that, the financer would get a 75% guarantee against that loan. So the remaining 25%, it can take a collateral or it can do its own underwriting for the borrower.
Oh, that's quite beneficial. And what is the least that a person can start with?
So again, depends on the scheme category. Like CGTMSE's lowest capping, again, it may be 10 lakh, 50 lakh. But if you look at from another credit guaranteed loan perspective, you can start even as small as 0.
Oh, lovely. That means that small businesses can also target this.
Yes.
It can be a beginning point for them.
Yes.
They feel that, okay, there's a guarantee given by the government itself.
Yes.
Nice. Participation in international fairs.
So I'll correct you there.
Okay.
This scheme is called the International Cooperation Scheme.
International Cooperation Scheme.
Yes. So as a Government of India keeps on thrusting towards MSMEs, its three main thrust sectors. Exports hold a very close to heart connection with the Government of India.
Yeah, it
Hence
has been always.
Yeah. Hence the International Cooperation Scheme. What does the International Cooperation Scheme bring about? Like any business wants to tap into newer markets, they go to exhibitions, trade fairs of that particular market to start showing their presence that yes, we are somewhere in this area. Our presence is there somewhere in this area. So International Cooperation Scheme hosts a benefit where a business gets a reimbursement of the charges that it would need to pay for attending any fair which is overseas.
Okay.
So let's say tomorrow your company wants to attend the Dubai Expo and the Dubai Expo is covered under International Cooperation Scheme. You would be eligible to get a reimbursement up to 5 lakh rupees out of the charges for stall rent, your travel airfare, your stays there. Out of all the expenses that you would have made for attending that international trade fair, you would get reimbursement from the government up to rupees 5 lakh.
That's quite a bit of an amount which can help you in the cash flow.
Yes.
And this is a facility for business promotion. So government is actually helping us for that.
Yes. And the best part about this scheme, everyone who is an MSME, means a manufacturing sector, a service sector, they are eligible under the scheme.
All you need is a Udyam certification.
All they need is an Udyam certification.
Nice. Third, public procurement policy.
Public procurement policy is again more of a policy than a scheme. So as a policy, it's an instruction. It's an instruction to all the public sector units of the central government.
Okay.
That they have to mandatorily purchase out of the total value of the purchases that they make. They have to mandatorily purchase 25% from micro and small enterprises, MSE suppliers.
Okay. 25%.
25%. I want to touch something else here. To implement the public procurement policy, the government currently has also started the GEM portal. It is mandating GEM portal for everyone.
Yes.
Every central public sector unit has to mandatorily purchase or make their procurement from the GEM portal. And all the MSMEs are being given at ground. The government is conducting vendor development programs. They are being given training how to get on board the GEM portal and how to operate it.
We have ourselves witnessed a lot of public sector undertakings as well as private companies also, irrespective of any domain that they're coming from. They are all targeting GEM portal to see another avenue of doing so. And at the same time, it is so robust that there are several companies are modernizing themselves not only through their own bucket of channel of marketing, but also GEM portals. So this has, since the last 2-3 years, we are seeing a lot of influx coming to that, and it has been very helpful as well.
Surely it would have been.
Interesting. Prime Minister's Employment Generation Program.
Again, a very interesting scheme. So, Prime Minister's Employment Generation Program essentially is a category of, it comes from a category of government schemes that are called a credit-linked subsidy scheme.
Okay.
So, now the government has become very smart. Earlier, what used to happen? There used to be cash subsidies. Means a business would prepare a proposal, would draft a project report and submit it to the government and straight away receive the subsidy amount by themselves.
Acha, directly by themselves.
And then what would have happened? They would run away with that money.
Oh, okay. So this was kind of a trap and a scam happening together at the same time.
So now the government has come up with credit-linked subsidy schemes. What they say is, you first go to a bank, you get financing done on your project, and then we will give you subsidy which will be deposited with your bank.
Okay.
So in a way, you are already tied up with a loan with a bank. So the scheme in question, Prime Minister's Employment Generation Program, the upper cap for a project cost, eligible project cost for a manufacturing unit is 50 lakhs and for a service unit is 20 lakhs.
Okay.
How is it structured? Up to 35%, depending on your social category and location where you belong, up to 35% of your project cost is given to you as a subsidy. 10% of your project cost has to come out of your own pocket. So that has to be the owner's contribution. Now, on day zero of this availing this scheme, you would have to get a sanction from any banker for the remaining 90% of your project cost. Once that sanction is done, the government would release this 35% to the banker, which the banker would then hold for a period of 3 years with itself.
Oh, that's quite a long period.
Now, if the business that has taken this particular scheme keeps up and running for 3 years, then this subsidy would be credited to his account.
Okay, so it has a longevity clause to it, and it has a security in place, and the intent is very clear. Which is why the 10% is reserved and it's secured by the
So they want to give money, but they want to give money only to genuine people.
Yeah. You rightly mentioned our government is smart.
Government is smart.
All right. The most famous, which everybody is talking, who's who? Stand Up India.
Stand Up India scheme, one of my personal favorites. Why? Because it is actually something that is very much in line with MSME's vision as well. It is about bringing credit to the underserved and unserved segments of the society. Stand Up India focuses on women and SC/ST entrepreneurs.
Okay.
So the
underserved
and unserved. So Stand Up India has a sole focus and sole instruction in the policy document itself that every bank branch, out of all the branches that are present in India, every bank branch must have at least one Stand Up India account.
Okay.
So banks are given this mandate. Next, what is in the scheme? What is the benefit? You either have to be a woman entrepreneur or an SC/ST entrepreneur. You will get a credit guaranteed collateral free loan for your business, ranging from the lower cap starts at 10 lakh rupees up to 1 crore rupees.
Okay.
For your business.
And who's eligible? Just by the fact that you are a SC/ST or a woman, you can?
You can.
Irrespective of any business that you are into?
Irrespective of any business you're into.
And how do they qualify that taking this further? Again, with an MSME certificate, that's it?
So again, the government is smart. They know that they cannot evaluate a business. So what do they say? These are banks. They have been evaluating businesses since ages. Yeah. So if the bank is ready to fund any business, they're also ready to back it via credit guarantee collateral free security.
Okay, so they have their checkpoints and the check agents who are taking care of this in that manner.
Yes.
Startup India.
Startup India. Okay, so Startup India is more of an initiative than a scheme. It hosts many things. But we are on the topic of government schemes, and the largest benefit out of the Startup India initiative is also the Startup India Seed Fund Grant.
Okay.
So there are a lot of up and coming startups in India. But have you ever asked yourself what actually qualifies as a startup? And how do I identify if I call myself as a startup, what proof do I give that I am a startup? So there is this DPIIT registration that you must take from the government of India for being called a eligible startup. So all the startups who have registered under the Startup India initiative at the Startup India portal and have taken DPIIT registration, they are eligible under the scheme.
Okay.
Next, they need to make a representation through a pitch PPT to the government of India that this is my startup, this is my business model, this is the problem, and this is my solution to it. If the solution already exists, your solution has to be more innovative. If it does not exist, then you are coming up with a solution to a problem that has earlier not been catered to.
And how old companies can come here? 0 to 1 to 2 years, or there is a
0 to 10 years.
10 years is also considered as a startup. Yes. With the product already developed and maybe a pilot is also run.
Yes.
But they can avail so?
Yes. So it comes in 2 stages. Startup India Seed Fund Grant gives you a grant of rupees 20 lakh rupees for developing a prototype, ideation, proof of concept, the initial stages.
Okay.
And the people who have done this, they get a grant for expansion, branding and marketing up to 50 lakh rupees.
Okay, which is where when the growth has come in, you have it from 5 years to 10 years is when this particular capital can come into play.
Yes.
And it can help them. Okay.
So that is the Startup India scheme that the government scheme people call in layman language.
There's one more scheme which is called MSME MDA scheme.
Okay. You researched everything from the public domain, correct?
Yeah.
Yes. So this is again a challenge that emsme saarthi solves. Like I mentioned on the day one when I started researching, there were 80 to 90 websites. Currently, I am collating data from more than 100 websites and the database is over 810 schemes. MDA is actually an older name.
Okay.
So the largest challenge that was there with the public domain data information that was available, it is not updated regularly.
What are you saying? You mean to say the MDA scheme is no longer there or it has got upgraded or
It has been rebranded.
rebranded altogether?
Okay. So like we spoke about the international cooperation scheme, there is something called the procurement and marketing support scheme, which is for domestic trade fairs and exhibitions.
And that is the new MBA avatar of it.
Yes.
Okay.
So under that scheme, you get the reimbursement again of stall rent and your travel fare or expenses that you make for going to a trade exhibition up to 75% of the total expenditure made or a lakh rupees, whichever is lower.
They also say there are certain schemes for weaker sections and there are some names being thrown which is like Swanidhi or Vishwakarma.
PM Swanidhi and PM Vishwakarma. These are essentially schemes for businesses which are run by street vendors and craftsmen.
Okay.
So PM Swanidhi, it stands for Prime Minister Street Vendor Nidhi Scheme. PM Swanidhi. What it does is it gives out loans from public sector banks to street vendors basis their cash flow. Generally, funding is done basis your income tax return and everything, but street vendors would not have that obviously. So all the registered street vendors who are obviously registered with the municipal corporation, they get a loan ranging from 10,000 to 50,000 rupees from any public sector bank under this scheme.
Under this scheme.
And then there is PM Vishwakarma. So the disbursements, applications and application process is still up, but the disbursements have still not started for Vishwakarma. It is going to start very soon.
Okay.
How is it structured is, it is a multifaceted scheme which gives out 2-3 benefits to worksmen and craftsmen who actually work with their hands, like cobblers.
So these are skilled employees?
Not skilled employees, skilled laborers.
Skilled laborers.
These are carpenters, cobblers, masons, or locksmiths, keysmiths.
Yes. Yeah.
What does the scheme provide? It provides first a training to these guys, then a grant of up to 15,000 rupees to purchase the toolkit, and then basis that grant, it provides 2 separate loans in 6-month tranches for starting their business.
Oh, lovely. So if somebody already in their generation have seen people doing this particular part and then they come to know that, okay, we would want to also have a future here, then they go ahead, avail this particular scheme, get the training also, get the entire toolkit also, and then they can fly it by themselves. That's quite commendable. This is where government should be supporting to all stratas.
Yes.
This is one area which is quite interesting. How about a scheme for microfinance program?
Microfinance, what exactly do you mean by microfinance?
They call it mudra.
Okay, so microfinance is essentially loans that are smaller in terms of the monetary value. When we speak about business loans, 3, 4, 5 lakh rupees is not a big amount. Because anyone who runs a business knows that this is not a big amount in terms of a business. Now, Mudra is a scheme that is structured in a way that it will give out a collateral-free loan. Earlier, we discussed credit guarantee loan. This is not a credit guarantee loan, which is backed by a guarantee from the government. This is a collateral-free loan in small ticket sizes, starting right from 10,000 rupees, going up to 10 lakh rupees. For businesses or for owner-run businesses, means one person show like beauty parlors, barber shops, or owner-run businesses, small businesses. So these people, they require microfinancing.
Even professionals can take this thing who have their enterprises.
Give me
Apart
an
from
example.
just having a salon or anything, any small CA service or any kind of consulting service,
Surely they can.
they can.
Surely they can.
Yeah. Okay. What about the scheme on TREAD for women?
Trade for women. Okay. So TREAD stands for Trade Related Entrepreneurship Development Assistance Schemes.
Development assistance schemes.
Development assistance scheme.
Okay.
So yeah, there is a mishap with the
Spelling, yeah.
spelling and acronym there, but it's fine. So it is specifically a scheme for women who belong to the economically weaker section of the society. What the scheme is structured is 30% of their trade related project. It could be any business. There is no restriction whatsoever. It could be as simple as वो हाथ से जो महिलाएं सिलाई करती हैं.
Sewing it.
हाँ, yes. Could be anything. So 30% of their total investment, the government is ready to fund. 70% a financer would have to come in. Now, the problem with this segment is why bankers do not touch this segment is it is cash related. It is largely running on cash, and these people are unstructured. So, how the scheme is structured is there has to be an NGO which has to act as an SPV. This
What
NGO,
is SPV? Sorry, I'm just
special purpose vehicle, a facilitator
special purpose vehicle.
vehicle. It could be a middleman or a facilitator in layman language. So what this NGO would do is it would help these women prepare solid project proposals and then bring in financiers and submit representations to the government.
So they are kind of a guidance.
A guidance facilitator person. Yes. If you might have heard of self-help groups, और छोटी भाषा में इसको महिलाओं की VCs होती है.
हाँ, right.
So in the rural areas, there are these self-help groups, organizations of women run by women and for women. वो लोग they tie up with some cooperative rural lending bank and they provide these women with the facility of making an application through them to the government and to the financer obviously. Now the financer relies on this NGO for the recovery of their finance, and means obviously the NGO would not have any recourse. So in case the woman defaults, the liability still lies with the women and the bank. That guy, the NGO is still there only as a facilitator. But
So the burden doesn't fall onto them.
burden doesn't
They
fall.
have safeguarded that.
They have safeguarded that. But just that, at least the documentation and the procedural part of it, it's a lot less efforts for the financer.
It is simplified. At the same time, there's someone to mentor it and create it as a checklist and keep everything ready. So all the parties are actually doing their role properly.
Yes.
Interesting. And how about the support for entrepreneurial and managerial development of startups through business incubators? This is a long one.
And it's technical as well.
Okay.
So you can ask about, and something that I keep on hearing are incubators, business incubators. What are these?
Very fancy.
Very fancy. Yes.
So yeah, business incubators, extremely fancy terminology. So support for entrepreneurs as well as for managerial development for these kind of startups. How is it possible through these incubators?
People who belong to commerce segment, they are very smart. What do? They take a very simple thing and they label it with an overly complicated name so as to create an entry barrier. This practical implication of this you can very well see in the stock market. Very simple thing, they'll fancy name it.
Okay.
Okay. What is a business? या तो
impress करने के लिए बस बड़ा वाला चंक वाला नाम डाल दो and then we're sorted.
कुछ तो fancy करना है. कुछ तो fancy करना है. What is a business incubator? It is a place which provides infrastructural support, seating capacity, and shared resources for budding new startups. Co-working space.
Yes.
Wherein, what is different about this co-working space? The charges, the facilities, and the sort of environment that is being supported by a government initiative. So the government keeps on giving some sort of input funding to that. And more often than not, these are set up by some educational institutes. Like one of the largest business incubators of India is in IIT Bombay.
Yeah.
Currently, there are 30 to 35 startups who are sitting there. And these are all startups that are, listed for the President's Award, the Prime Minister's Award. So what are these? These are just spaces which share technology, which share resources, which share such sort of facilities which generally a business would have to got into capital expenditure to avail.
And it is all standardized. So
it is all standardized. It is
expensive.
All top-notch quality because it is IIT Bombay.
Yes. And the greatest of the minds.
Greatest of the minds.
Right.
There are free consultants roaming here and there in the campus. And obviously the delegates that are from the government, any sort of foreign investors who wish to view what are the top-notch startups that your country has to offer.
Yes.
They get that exposure. So that is a business incubator. Where did they get this word from? From the medical field. There they have incubation. They have. Now what they said, this business is a baby and I'll make it grow by keeping it in some sort of secured space.
Lovely. So we have a lot of audience which comes from a very layman background, and that is the reason it was very necessary, Tanish, that you explain us, and you've given us a very nice golden nugget by explaining it and simplifying it from A to Z. Okay. Now I would like to understand, since we have run through plethora of schemes of the government, why is MSME working in this government scheme space?
Very nice question there. So what is MSME? It's a startup, I understand. It's a fintech startup working in the MSME domain. But what is the idea behind MSME? So our founder's idea or the founding team's idea was to do something for the MSME segment so as to uplift that segment.
Okay.
And actually add on to the entirety of India's economy. In fact, internally, we call our vision nation building.
Nation building vision.
And for our presentations and everything, we mentioned that the E in EMSME stands for easing, enabling and empowering MSMEs.
Lovely.
Now, when we started the journey, our first year went into a lot of surveys around what are MSME businesses, what are the types of industries they are related to, what are the locations they are into, what are their pain points, what are the major challenges their businesses face. During this survey, we came across a perennial challenge: access to market, access to credit, access to information. So access to credit fell into my lap.
Okay.
And I would not say again access to credit. Access to credit was something that we were looking at from an entity's perspective. Means largely my founder has also been into banking consultancy for a very huge part of his life. So we were looking at access to credit, innovative ways of accessing to credit. That fell into my lap. Now a normal business, they get finance either by registering for an IPO at the stock exchange or going for a loan from the bank.
Okay.
For MSMEs, this funding, a huge chunk of it was being provided by the government through the schemes. While solving that access to credit problem, we came across that the government is sitting there on this huge budget and it is ready to give that money. So that is why we decided that government schemes is the way to go.
Okay, to bridge the gap.
And as I mentioned earlier, when I started researching on government schemes, I found out that the first challenge for a sane person even to read through is somebody please pick out what is the information that is relevant for me to read through. And once I get any government scheme document, it is on an average a 30-pager circular or notification from the government that is in legal language that is very difficult to understand.
It is complicated and it is long and it is very, very boring to an extent. I'll be honest, I'm talking from my audience side.
So the language can be very difficult for a layman to read through. What we did was we built a summarized version of that circular, and two, how to filter out from that entire database of scheme. So that is how we landed in the area of government schemes. And again, from that government schemes, we landed into a scheme discovery platform. But here you would have another question, that how did the idea
Create the scheme discovering platform.
So government scheme, it has a certain personal angle for me as well. While I was growing up, my father also used to deal in government schemes related to farmers.
Okay. What does
Since
he do, if I have to understand slight
Yeah.
background of the past?
since past 10 years, all these schemes have been the farmers and individual and economically weaker section schemes have been converted to direct beneficiary transfers. Earlier, there used to be agents who used to help you apply for these schemes.
Okay.
In my hometown, there used to be a scheme on irrigation systems for the farmers, those pipes and diesel pumps and all those things. So he used to actually he had a network of people at each village level who used to help identify the farmers who were in need of these sort of irrigation system setups. And then they used to come to our store. We used to help them with preparing a file, and we had the local liaison with the local government office. We used to submit the file there, and from there they were allotted that this particular farmer has been allotted this particular irrigation system, and we used to get that delivered to him.
So you kind of observed your father also doing
So-
this, and it has been helpful.
More than helpful, it helped me with the direction. It helped me with the government scheme navigation.
Okay. And specialize yourself in providing that support.
I would still not call myself a specialist. It's
an
ocean.
ongoing-
It's an ocean of knowledge.
And your ongoing learning. there.
Every time I look at the database of Saarthi, every time I find out that this can be added, this can be subtracted.
Oh, okay. That's lovely. So how exactly does the scheme discovery happen? If you can explain us the process.
It's a very simple process. It starts with a simple mobile number or email ID plus OTP login at MSME Saarthi. There you go. You create your business profile, means input your business title. That's it. You input your business name. Then it has a button, Discover Your Government Schemes. Click on that. Now there are two modes to access this. If you are already a registered MSME, that is, you are having an Udyam registration certificate, you input your Udyam registration certificate number and it auto-fetches your details.
Okay.
If you do not have that, you have to key in a few information like what location do you belong to, which state, what date was your business incorporated on, are you an MSME or not, if yes, what size, means micro, small or medium, which sector do you belong to, manufacturing, service, trading, what type of industry do you belong to, it may be steel, pharmaceutical, textile, and what is the exact business description. You key in that information. After that, it asks you basic information about yourself, like social category, gender, those two things only. Again, you key in that information, and from my database, basis this information, it will filter out what is the scheme specifically for you.
Okay. Pretty much simple and very step oriented.
Very step oriented.
Okay. One important question,
Yes.
which is always a problem. So, what are the common challenges which are faced by the MSMEs in accessing as well as availing these benefits of government schemes?
Actually, very important question. And through this podcast, I would wish to tell this to everyone. The most basic error that any business who wishes to have the benefit of government scheme does is having proper documentation and compliances in place.
Okay.
For example, if I was to say, you are a business belonging to the food industry. Now, it is a very well-known fact that anyone who deals in consumable food must have a FSSI license.
Right.
Correct? Now, businesses, what would they do is, likewise, very simple compliances or registrations they have to take from the government. And without this, no financer would touch their business. If no financer would touch their business, the government themselves would also not be interested in funding their business.
Correct.
So they need to ensure that, one, their business is compliant in all manners. So their documentation needs to be in place if they wish to be in it for the longer run and get the benefit of the government schemes. Second is they overcommit their incomes. What is overcommitting your income? Businesses generally have a ratio that is calculated for them, which is called FOIR ratio, fixed obligations against income ratio.
Okay.
It is basically a comparison of your monthly income against your monthly fixed obligations. What are fixed obligations? Your EMIs, rent,
Overheads and expenses, all of that.
Generally, a 50% fixed obligation to income ratio is good.
50%.
50%. Your fixed obligations should be ideally only up to 50% of your monthly income.
Okay.
So I have seen cases being rejected because their FOIR was 65%, 60%. Because financiers, they're already doing risky business when they are lending you in a credit guaranteed scheme.
And when would be the case? We're going a little off track, but I'm very intrigued with this. When could a FOIR go to 65%? I mean, what is the typical mistake that they do?
They take up loans which are unwarranted. They take
Which are?
Unrequired.
Huh.
They commit to expenses which are fixed in nature but unnecessary, like rentals or EMIs on assets like vehicles.
So early expenses which should not have even been an expense altogether, but splurging basis, or maybe a decision, a fog that took place and
Yes.
that they went in for something like this.
Yes.
That got impacted into the FOIR, and many people don't know also of it.
Yes.
Okay.
So FOIR is something that they must look at. Your FOIR, it helps any financer calculate your repayment capacity. What is a repayment capacity? How much this business would be able to repay in, say, a tenure of 5 to 7 years. Okay. So if your income tax returns, they are showing an income level of 4 lakh, 5 lakh rupees per annum, you cannot have an expectation to get a funding of 50 lakhs.
Right.
So if you wish to get a funding of 50 lakhs, you would have to show that sort of income in your income documents or your bank statements. So people generally tend to make a mistake.
Income or EBITDA?
Income.
Okay.
EBITDA is something that sharks would calculate while investing in equity. This is our simple-minded government. They rely on banks which do a simple-minded cash flow-based testing of what is the FOIR and what is the repayment capacity.
And that is based on the income.
Yes.
Okay.
Next, what mistake they do is they keep a lot of their business dealing outside of formal channels.
Okay.
So there is generally a sense of fear in minds of the small businesses or small businessmen that if I was to put up more income on my income tax return, or if I was to show more GST levels, then the government would come and, levy taxes on me, levy penalties on me, levy charges on me. But what they do not understand is, in a longer run, what harm they are inviting is their income and their books are not so strong as to enable them to get funded by any sort of financer or government.
Okay.
So they need to have their documents in place. They need to have their income formalized. They need to keep a track of not tying up with fixed expenses which are unnecessary in nature, and understand that where they stand and what are they expecting. Because people say कि यार गवर्नमेंट स्कीम्स में तो कुछ मिलता ही नहीं है. स्मार्ट जो लोग हैं उनको सबको मिल रहा है. थोड़ा सा यू नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड कि आप कहाँ खड़े हो, वहां से आपको क्या मिल सकता है.
So you should be aware at what stage you are, what exactly do you want, and then do your research on the government scheme.
Yes.
Meet the right channel, which is MSME, and get it done.
Yes.
Okay. Interesting. So we're coming towards our later half of the segment, which is the concluding segment. It's very important for us to know, what does a compliance health checkup mean, or how does it happen? And again, why is it crucial for MSMEs to undergo this particular process?
Like we just discussed, MSMEs often are non-compliant and hence they lose out on financing opportunities. When we at EMSME went to market and a lot of our customer applications got rejected due to being non-compliant, we developed the compliance health check feature. What it does is, basis the same algorithm that filters out the schemes for a business, it filters out the list of permissions, certifications, government registrations or compliances that any business must have, like in a mandatory manner, any business should have in a recommendatory manner, or anything that is conditional.
Okay.
Because there can be only three things. Something which is mandatory, you should have. Something that is recommendatory, that if you have this, this is added confidence to your business.
Beneficial.
Added confidence to your business. And something that you would have to do if you satisfy some sort of conditions. So it is essentially a diagnosis report of your business that these are the things that you must have. And you can simply take, this is what I have done, this is I have done, this is I have done. That is what a compliance health check is called. Now, why is it necessary for a business? As I mentioned earlier, if they're uncompliant, no financer from the formal channel is going to touch their business with a 10-foot pole.
Very interesting. This is required and they should undergo the process so that they are completely sanitized with the fact that they are at the right track.
Yes.
All right.
Absolutely.
Can you share us some of the MSME mission to transform MSMEs to make them more bankable, more credible?
That is straight away in line with the vision that we earlier discussed, that bridging the gap between credit and everything. If you look at the size of MSME market currently in India, there are 6.3 crore MSME units which are manufacturing or service units. And then added to that, there are 2.7 crore traders, registered traders. So that's a massive 9 crore business units.
Yes.
Okay. And
6.3, 2.7.
6.3, 2.79. Yes. These are approximate numbers again.
Sure.
I'll throw out an absolute number which I read today only. The latest NSSO survey says only 16% of them have an exposure with the formal credit.
What are you saying? 1/6 or 60?
1/6.
Only 1/6.
Only 1/6.
Oh my God, that's quite a limited number.
Yes. So if you would put it into another perspective, only 1 out of 6 businesses have themselves funded from a bank or an formal regulated lending entity.
Oh.
So what about the remaining 84? Where are they getting their funding from? It is either friends and family or informal sources, which are
the unorganized
lenders, sahukar ho gaye. And these are all cash dealings. What is happening through this is, with this huge population and their requirements on an individual level, they might be tiny, but collectively, this is a huge requirement. What is this doing in our nation is, it is promoting the unregulated sector. The money churning in the unregulated sector, the informal sector, is happening more because less number of people are exposed to the formal credits. Hence, their lending is not regulated.
Circulating there.
So this, in a way, also impacts the nation's growth. This increases the black money. This creates a lot of problem. And if we are in line with the vision of making India a $10 trillion economy, it already is. Just that those numbers are not accounted for because they come from the informal sector.
Should I really say, in other words, that it's in the wrong pocket? It needs to come to the pocket.
Yes.
Only then it would be validated. Otherwise, it's a vicious circle.
It's a vicious circle. And it will only and only promote the cash economy or the parallel economy that is running in the country. So all these businesses, they need to be brought to the formal scenario of credit or for formal lending scenario. So with this in mind, since our vision is nation building, we are also trying to make these businesses, MSME businesses, more digital, more tech oriented, so as to ensure that all their data, whether it is related to their accounting, whether it is related to their business overall numbers like daily footfall, daily sales and everything, and give them tools, digital tools, so that they can actually collect this data and prepare it in a credible manner, presentable manner. By doing these two things, what will happen is the bankability would follow.
Okay.
So that is the overall mission that MSME has. Make MSMEs more digital, credible and bankable, and again, support the overall vision of nation building.
Spot on targeting. I mean, it's really commendable to have this kind of a journey. So Tanishq, very quickly we'll move on to our rapid fire round.
Rapid fire, okay.
So
this is
going to be slightly easy. So what motivates you the most in your role at EMSME Saarthi?
The simplest answer to this would be I get paid. But okay.
Vitamin M.
But let's not get into humor here. And actually, the correct answer to this would be one, I hail from a business background, and that is why I understand that the businesses actually would need this. Second, it is really fun to work at EMS. It is really fun because if you'd see my journey with Saarthi, I have been with Saarthi since it was drafted on a single sheet of paper, and to now where it is a mature product which is running numbers, 30,000 customers now, 30,000 hits and more than 20,000 customers now.
Lovely.
So it is in a way very close to my heart. So that motivates me.
Very nice. Very nice. So who has been your biggest professional mentor or influence and why?
This is a very easy question to answer. So my biggest professional mentor and influence has been our founder, C. Ankush Jain. Essentially, because I have been working with him since my internship days. And he was here in the previous podcast, correct?
Yes.
As he mentioned in his podcast that you have to keep in mind that people leveraging is a skill and आपको भी आपके लोगों का ध्यान रखना पड़ेगा. And he does not just say that, he believes that. And he follows that in principle, in spirit and in word.
Okay.
So again, that is all to it. His passion, his charisma, his ideology, people at office or people in my personal life also often tell me in a joke that there is a lot of Ankush in Tanishq. So, yep, that's pretty much to it.
Yeah, we just got a glimpse. There are quite a few statements by you which are almost, it's coming from the mentor itself. It's in that manner. So what are your aspirations or goals at EMSME Saarthi personally for the next 5 years looking ahead?
Okay. We spoke about GEM portal during this podcast. So if you would look at GEM portal, it was not developed by the government of India. It was developed by a private company, a private technology company. And then later on, the government adopted it. Right now, it is being run as a government initiative, but its maintenance and the entire backend is still being maintained by the private player as a vendor to the government. So my vision with EMSME Saarthi is for making it available to the entirety of MSME population and to meet the ultimate vision of nation building and bringing the MSMEs in the formal fold. Or what my vision for EMSME Saarthi in the next 5 years is that the government of India at a central level adopts this.
Commendable. So let us understand you. How do you unwind yourself after a very challenging day at work?
So there are two answers to this. A funny one and a real one.
Let's go for both.
So the funny one is I go and sleep.
Okay.
And-
Test it out.
And the even funnier one is the real one. I was hearing you when you were making my introduction. You mentioned that I come from a business background family and I started my career at my family business. I have still not given up on that. After my day at work, I work for that.
Oh, okay.
So how I
Around the
unwind is more work.
Okay. A workaholic, always a workaholic.
Yes.
And last but not the least, one advice for MSME.
One advice for MSME is अपना हक जानिए and do your compliances on time. अपने सारे जिम्मेदारियों को निभाएं.
Okay. So here's a golden nugget from Tanishq. Please understand your responsibility. अपने हक को जानिए and then work towards it. और उनको समझने के लिए उसके लिए क्या करना चाहिए is move on to EMSME Saarthi and make it productive by looking at the scheme that is going to work out for your business. Thank you, Tanishq, for being with us for this episode. It has been quite factual. It has been quite informative for our audience. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Yes. Subscribe to our channel to enjoy more such business podcasts and stories. Hit that like button and leave a comment to show some love.